Now that I'm situated in my apartment here in LA, it is time for me to show you my film camera collection. I've got quite a few, so I thought I'd just show you which ones I really love and why I've kept them around and kept them in my collection. So without any further ado, let's get started with the Polaroids, since I have the most of those for sure. Starting with the Polaroid Land Camera 1-Step, which is my first film camera. I usually tell people my first film camera is the Mamiya RB67 because it is the first film camera that I really used like every single day. But I got this camera years and years ago from my uncle when the Impossible Project started releasing refurbished Polaroids. And it's just a classic design. It's the camera that the Instagram logo was originally modeled after, and it just, I mean, it takes great photos, and honestly, I just don't use it enough. I keep it around for sentimental reasons, and it finds itself in a bin under my bed, which is not really a great place to put a sentimental camera, so maybe I'll bring you out to play here soon. Next up, the Let's Talk Shop Norton brand blue Polaroid 600. Ooh, it's even got some film in there. This is my most used Polaroid camera. I use this pretty much any time I need a Polaroid. It just has always gotten incredibly consistent results. The rollers are clean and the exposure always bangs. Sometimes these cameras' auto exposure and ability to expose an image correctly has started to fail. So when you find a really good one, you don't want to let it go. And this one is just a very interesting, like, brand collaboration. I guess Norton probably just got a couple of these for in-store units, and maybe it was a display model at one point, but regardless, very cool looking. Next up, we've got the Polaroid Cool Cam, which is almost like the opposite of the Norton brand camera. It's pretty much the exact same camera, but in a red colorway. This camera is also super consistent. I find that the cameras that are like this more boxy design have had a much higher level of consistency than any of the other 600 cameras that I've used. I don't really think that has anything to do with the actual externals of it, but that's just where I've had the most luck. Next up, one of the most interesting Polaroids I have is the Barbie Polaroid, which is also a Polaroid 600. This one was like $5, only to find out it refurbished, it's selling for like 300 or something like that. So I had to cop. Super sick Polaroid, honestly. Like, really cool to see a brand collaboration like this. On the topic of brand collaborations though, let's take a look at the Tasmanian Devil Polaroid, which is definitely the most eye-catching Polaroid of all of these 600 cameras. When you open it up to take a photo, you're also opening his mouth. So I always thought that that was such a nice attention to detail. Those are the Polaroid 600s I have. Let's talk about the Polaroid SX70s. Not only are they one of the sexiest film cameras or instant cameras of all time, they are also a pioneer in the industry, with the Sonar SX70 being the first camera of all time to feature autofocus, which is such a cool little note. I personally use my Sonar way more than I use my other two traditional brown leather SX70s. One being one of my brown leather SX70s is missing a front plate, which just leaves a huge film burn on my Polaroids every time I use it. And then the other one just does not work at all, so rest in peace. If you've never seen someone open up one before, well, now you have. Yeah, they're just, God, so sexy. Seriously. While we're on the topic of sexy film cameras, I want to jump into sexy motion picture film cameras. This is my Super 8 camera, the Bauer C1M Super. This camera's overall build and design is incredibly cool, and it's just one of the simplest Super 8s I've ever had the pleasure of using. It has a zoom lens that you can either use manually or move from tele to wide to, zoom it in and out. And then the only other option it has is 18 frames per second to 24 frames per second. So seriously, all you have to do is choose your frame rate and start shooting. It's super mobile. It's not as obnoxiously big as some other Super 8 cameras I've used. It's just the one. So without any further ado, here are some clips that I love from this camera. I always get my Super 8 film scanned super flat so that I can color grade it. It's especially important with a camera like this that doesn't have a filter that goes in front of tungsten motion picture film to counteract the tungsten. So I'm just able to warm it up in post. Here's an example of the before and after of Super 8 film that I had scanned at Spectra and Last Good Film Lab. You'll see that they even have different scanning ratios, I guess. Last Good Film Lab leaves the previous and next frame showing in the crop, and Spectra only shows you the current frame. I don't really know much about motion picture film scanners, so I can't speak on what the difference is, but both labs dev and scan beautifully. I recommend either of them for your Super 8 film. Anyway, let's just get back to still film cameras. Next up, point and shoots. I pretty much only use 2 point and shoots. The Nikon L35AF, which is just a classic little Nikon camera with a 35mm 2.8 lens, which is a really nice aperture to be able to drop down to on a point and shoot. It's got a nice little flash that pops up. It's just a sharp little point and shoot that's great to take with you anywhere. And then next I have this premium point and shoot, the Contax TVS. This camera gets slept on a little bit more than its T2 brother because it has a zoom lens. For some reason, people don't like zoom point and shoots very much. I think it gets slept on because it doesn't have that 2.8 aperture that the other Contax systems have. Anyways, it has a zoom lens, which is nice because I personally love zoom point and shoots. Most of my favorite point and shoots have had a zoom lens on them. I love the option of being able to zoom in and get kind of more detailed shots if I need to. It's got a zone focusing thing on the side that allows you to pick your focus or just leave it on autofocus. And it also has an aperture ring, which is a very nice detail for a point and shoot. I love point and shoots because it makes it very easy for you to flick up a flash photo of someone when I'm much less likely to set up a flash on, like, say, my Nikon F2 or something. So yeah, I love these cameras, and I love the photos that they're capable of taking. Oh, and they both have long weekend wrist straps on them. Shout out to Willem and Allison, love you guys. Sticking with 35mm, I have the only 35mm SLR that I'll use, the Nikon F2. I have it both in silver and in black because I got one for 20 bucks on my way back from Tennessee after hanging out with Valandas in Gatlinburg, whatever it is, at this little antique mall outside of Asheville, North Carolina. After I started using it, I realized how capable and sharp the lenses could be, so I picked up the silver one because I just wanted both. On the silver version, I have a 50mm 1.4, which is a banger of a lens, and on the black version, I have a 28mm 3.5, which is incredible, sharp, capable. It's just, both of these lenses are incredible. So highly recommend the Nikon F2. Let's make things a little trippy. Let's talk about 3D film cameras. 3D film cameras take normal 35mm film, and when you take a photo, you're taking the photo 4 times at the exact same time from 4 different lenses. So when you overlap those lenses in post in like an application or in Photoshop, you get this really cool moving image. These cameras were originally made to make lenticular prints, which I have a couple of my previous work and they are so sick. But yeah, you can get these really cool wigglegrams that you can post on social media or make into a GIF or add to a music video. Check out my video on 3D film cameras from years ago, and I might need to do an updated 3D film camera video here soon. So check out the old one and wait for the new one, I guess. The Nikon N8000 is the one I use the most. It is a complete toy joke of a camera. It's got a completely fake LCD screen for who knows what reason. I just recommend always putting 400 speed film in this camera and always using a flash if you can. The subject just pops and really stands out and makes the depth that much better. That said, this camera is kind of a jokey toy sort of thing, so it's made out of incredibly cheap plastic, and as you can see here, the advanced lever is ready to give up at any second. So you really have to baby this camera while you use it, or else it could just snap in half. It's happened to me before. Now, if you wanted a slightly more premium 3D camera, you could use a Nimslo 3D. This camera's build quality is a lot better, it's a lot sharper, and yeah, it's just a much nicer size and form factor than the Nikon. So yeah, this is also another great 3D film camera. Okay, next up, medium format, we have a Veronica 645, which is busted as hell. This camera I got for maybe $10, $15. The viewfinder won't stay on because components are cracked. It has a massive hole in the bottom of it, and the actual rewind knob is completely missing as well. So yeah, it's busted. I've shot one roll on it and I have no idea where I put the scans. So if I find them, I'll throw them up on screen, but it's not looking good. Maybe I'll do a video on shooting with this. Probably not though. Yeah, so that's that. And last but not least, the Pentax 6x7. This is the camera that I use for 99.9% of my conceptual work. And I love this camera with all my heart. It's my favorite film camera. It's the GOAT. That said, we just shot a video on our favorite film cameras over at Cinestill. So if you'd like to hear me talk about this one, I'm shamelessly plugging that channel. So go watch that video, watch it all the way through, and then hear what I have to say about the Pentax 6x7. Gotta shamelessly plug my people. I love that channel so much, and we're doing great stuff over there at Cinestill, so check it out. Yeah, so that's the end of this video. That's some of my favorite film cameras. I hope that this was a fun one, and yeah, I guess I'll see you next week. See ya. All right, let's see if I have something there.